What's going on?
Yeah, I've been pretty frustrated. I'm not gonna lie. Everything that has transpired up to this point has just been disappointing and frustrating. I've wanted to continue my career here. I've created my life here. My wife and I have bought our first home here, so this has been somewhere where I've always wanted to be. And just to see how things have played out has been disappointing. Obviously, I understand everything's a business, but at the same time, I want to put myself in a position where I'm valued and I feel appreciated and things like that. And unfortunately, that hasn't transpired the way I wanted to. So I'm just trying to take things day by day. And at the beginning of this process, I honestly just wanted to for things to work out, and I thought things were going to kind of be more progressive than they have, and so at this point it's kind of just up in the air.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and I am your host, Candi CWall Waller, checking in as I always do all throughout the season to give you the latest and greatest of information on the Washington Commanders. Welcome to BowieTV. If you are new here, hello. If you are returning, hello as well. We have to get into it, don't we, Commanders fans? We have to get right on into it. Now, listen, there was some great news that came out of the Washington Commanders organization today with the news that they are finally retiring Art Monk's number 81 jersey week 9 against the Seattle Seahawks. Make sure you circle that on your calendars. It is also the first day that the team will be wearing the Super Bowl era uniforms. Okay, so I don't want to miss the very important point that there was some good news that came out of the Commanders organization today. However, as you know, we started off the show with a clip from Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin talking to local media today about there not having been an extension signed yet. The two parties have not come to an agreement yet. Discussions have stalled over the last month, and we're a week out from training camp. So you all go ahead and drop in the chat. First and foremost, drop in the chat if you're new or returning so we can make sure we say hello to everyone. Also, comment in the chat how you're feeling about the new Super Bowl era uniforms, because I have not talked to you all about that yet. They got me working a whole week early, everybody. A whole week early. I am back, and that is fine because, this is what we do. So I hope you all have liked and subscribed this channel. I hope you are watching on your television screens on Comcast, channels 190 and 1097 on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. Let's go ahead and get into it. We started out with the intro, like I said, a clip from my colleague from the Washington Post, Nikki Javala. BowieTV was not able to attend the local media scrum today with Terry McLaurin, sharing his frustration, sharing where he just all the things, right? But go ahead and drop in the chat. In that intro, in that clip, you heard Terry talk about wanting to position himself so that he feels valued, he feels appreciated. I am so certain that this team, this franchise, all of the above, of course, all of you truly appreciate Terry McLaurin. But that has to show up in your bank account as well, which is understandable. So with that being said, you all know how I do. While this isn't necessarily use your clues, this is a bit of let's go ahead and go through the receipts, shall we? So let's talk about what we do know, because things were fine, or at least looking up, right? So let's go back to when we were at the owners' meetings when Nikki Javala asked Adam Peters about getting an extension, a deal all set and ready to go with Terry before the season starts.
Is there a desire to get Terry a new deal before the season starts, especially with Debo coming in, him having more money than Terry? I don't know if that matters. Is there a desire to get something done with him before the season starts?
Yeah, I think. Short answer is we want to make Terry commander for a long time. He's a great commander. He got better and better as the season went on, not only as a player but as a leader. It was really impressive to see him grow so much. When you think of Terry as this, pristine, polished player, but then he got even better. So it's really cool. Everybody can get better. Even the great ones. So. But we've had talks with Terry's representation, and I think just like any talks we'll have, those will stay in the house. But it's been really positive.
So talks will stay in house. It's been really positive. That was in April, the beginning of April at the NFL owners meetings. Okay, and if I may, I would like to go back when we're talking about Terry McLaurin being a leader. Let's not forget he was one of the 5 players voted by his teammates to be one of the postseason captains. Okay, so those postseason captains, Jaden Daniels, Jeremy Reeves, Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, they're just missing one more. They're missing one more, and that's Terry McLaurin. So that lets you know right there. I think everyone is super duper clear on, does this team need Terry McLaurin? I think you all know the answer to that. Yes, they do, especially if they want to make that run that they did last year. But hey, let's keep on going on to the receipts. Okay, so let's pull this receipt, shall we? This is from Debo Samuel Sr. Instagram page. Okay, a little bit in May. So we knew, and it was known, that Terry McLaurin had been attending OTAs. He had been at the facility. He had been on site. Everybody's all smiles. Everything is going fairly well, right? Then here we go with the developing story, right, from Jordan Schultz. Here we go into what we were told on site, we local media, was that conversations were going well. Folks were talking, folks were communicating. Of course, that was then on the hinges of Terry was just here. Then Terry decides they stop showing up. And of course, there's that. Then we know the story continued to develop, and that, hey, Terry is not coming to minicamp, not attending. Now, here's where it becomes, at that point in time, we've seen this movie before, right? Because we know that back in 2022, under Ron Rivera, something very similar happened. And I recall sharing on ABC7 with Scott Abraham. I said, well, that all went down and ended up happening, and Terry got re-signed. I think his press conference was on July the 6th. So at that point in time, I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure things will get done. Let's see. Let's get through July the 6th. Let's see if anything happens by then. Well, no, because July 7th and July 8th and July 9th and July 10th. And here we are today, way past July 6th. And Terry is sharing how he feels. Now, what I'm going to share now is the full clip, one of a longer clip, because Terry spent about 30 minutes of time. And if you all have heard us share more times than all the time, basically, that Terry McLaurin takes his time answering questions. He exhibits grace. He exhibits patience. Of course, he always exhibits respect. So he spent about 30 minutes with the media. So here's a bit of a longer clip. And while you are watching this clip, drop in the comments what you're thinking, what you're feeling about where things are today. Right? We know what Adam Peters said at the NFL owners meetings. And the message has been consistent from that perspective. Right? We know that Terry was on site. He was practicing. He was having, all smiles with his teammates. Then he stopped coming to practice, did not show for mandatory minicamp. We know that the story started to develop then at the national level. July 6th has come and gone. Now we know that Terry is in the area, obviously, and this is what he's now sharing today with the local media.
You that they've taken whatever tack they've taken, and have you now opened your mind up to being somewhere else?
I haven't got to that part yet. It has been disappointing. Going into this offseason, I thought there was going to be more progress, and I know those discussions were there at the beginning, and since OTAs and minicamp, we haven't had any discussions. We haven't talked at all, and that's tough. Obviously with camp coming around the corner, and so I haven't thought that far yet to really, see what's next in the standpoint of leaving or not, because I want to be here. I want to make that abundantly clear. Like I really appreciate this fan base, this city. This place has become my home. I've poured a lot of myself and given everything that I can every single day since I've been here, through the wins, losses, good, bad. And, at the end of the day, you do want to feel valued and you do want to feel appreciated. And I think, how the market is today, it pretty much that conveys what guys of my caliber are deserving of. And I feel like I fit that in that box because of just how I've always carried myself on and off the field and the value I know I bring to a team. And I know I bring to my teammates, and I know that I bring to an organization. And, I don't want to put myself in a position to feel like you have to beg for somebody to see your worth and your value. You feel like you've put that out there year in, year out. Everything, previous regimes, and even now, I've done everything that's been asked of me. I'm not perfect at all. I've definitely made mistakes, but I've always led with the right foot. And I've tried to put myself in a position to be a person that can be valued and respected amongst his coaches and his teammates, but also be a dog on the field. I don't want to get that mistaken. I feel like I'm one of the best receivers in this league. And, it's not because of me just feeling that way. I feel like I've proven that, and I'm going to continue to work hard to prove that. And that's kind of where things are. So I haven't really, gotten to the part of trade or not. Like I want things to work out, but at the end of the day, like it takes two to tango. You know what I mean? So however things go these next few days, I know camp's around the corner. I'll talk to my agent and we'll go from there. But overall, you just want to be appreciated and valued for who you are and what you bring to the team, and also what you feel like you could continue to do, because best believe I don't feel like I played my best ball yet, and I still feel like I have a lot of great things that I can do and bring to a team. And so it's disappointing that it's gotten to this point, and the toughest part is being away from my teammates, honestly, because I came into part of OTAs and things like that with the assumption things were going to progress a lot quicker than they have. And it's disappointing because I've always been a team guy and a leader. And the great thing about, the great thing I take away is I've gotten a lot of support from my teammates. I've played golf with them, I've hung out with them, I've talked to multiple guys, and they know where I stand, they know how I feel. And I think the tough part is they have to decipher things through the media, and they know I'm an open book. So everybody I've talked to, I've been 100% open and honest with them of where I stand and how things have been. And so I know I got their respect and their support, and I'm gonna continue to prove that when I'm on the field, whenever that time is. So just because I'm in this scenario doesn't change the fact of who I am and my character, because I'm gonna continue to be Terry McLaurin no matter where I'm at. And that's who's God's built me to be. That's who I've tried to prove who I am, and I'm gonna continue to walk in that.
Terry, what needs to happen next to get this thing?
All of the things that Terry McLaurin shared in that clip, of course, that just all tracks to who we all know him to be. So it should not be a surprise that he talks to his teammates. He's been hanging out with his teammates. The communication is there. We know that Dan Quinn shared previously that he had been in communications with Terry. We know, right? So then the question becomes, well, what is the holdup? What is the issue? What could it possibly be? And at this time, we all don't know. Terry McLaurin doesn't know. And as he shared, he showed up to OTAs with the thought that things were going to be moving much faster because conversations were happening. That was consistent, right? We heard Adam Peters say that at the NFL owners meeting. We heard Terry say that conversations were going, and then they just weren't. once OTAs and minicamp got started. So with that being said, there's a week out from training camp. You all can go ahead and put in the chat or in the comments what you think is going to transpire. Here's what I would just encourage everyone, myself and local media included, is to say, hey, Adam Peters been cooking so far. Let him cook. Let's see what happens. Now, this gourmet meal is taking a bit longer than the others. So then you have to wonder, well, what's going on back there? But clearly, something is going on back there. We all shall see, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I'm so certain that this team understands and knows Terry McLaurin's value and how much he is appreciated and wanted. I know the fan base feels that way. And I know you all are doing all that you can to make sure he knows that you all feel that way. So listen, I will sign off with this before we all get geared up for training camp. And if you must know, my thought was hopefully all of this gets done before training camp. Why? So that there's a focus on training camp. And even if Terry decides to show up with no deal done, right? Because he still has a year left on his current contract. So if he shows up without the extension, hopefully he shows up. If there is no deal done, hopefully he still shows up. If not, that's understandable as well. This is not the optimal situation. This is not necessarily the best case scenario for several different reasons. And it's also going to be difficult to focus because let's all keep it honest, right? Let's be transparent and authentic, which we know we do here on BowieTV. And that is, we know in this franchise and this fan base does not go exempt without public drama. So hopefully this gets ironed out because it's only, a year in for this staff, but you really don't want to see that. At least I don't want to necessarily see that kind of bulldoze its way into training camp and all of the things that should be happening around training camp. If he shows up with a deal done. If he shows up and the deal isn't done, then we know that's going to be a topic of conversation. Of course, if he doesn't show up at all, then we know that's a topic of conversation. And it was, might do everybody some good to get back to just talking about football. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in. As I just had to go down, list a bit of timeline of where this thing has gone from Terry being named a postseason captain to Adam Peters at the NFL owners meeting to Terry showing up to OTAs, then leaving OTAs and all of the things, just to kind of say, okay, here's all the points in time. Again, leave you with this. So far, everybody's been saying, let Adam cook. So let's see what he cooks up for dinner this time. You all make sure you are tuned in to BowieTV. We will be locked and loaded. As you know, training camp is right around the corner, and we will be present and accounted for on all things Washington Commanders, as well as all things Baltimore Ravens. So you do not want to miss one beat. Make sure you're liked, you're subscribed, you hit the bell so you get the account notifications, and tell everybody else about us because we are absolutely here. I will be talking to you all again soon.